And I just said, that's it. I'm done with vegetables and I'm done with nuts and I'm done with all of it.
Gail, how did you find the carnivore diet?
Kind of heard a little bit about it, like a lot of people, they say they heard Jordan Peterson, and I kind of heard something about it from him too, the Joe Rogan podcast. And so, yeah, it was interesting, but, I'd heard about keto and all of that. And I was busy doing plant-based garbage, plant-based sugar. And I watched a couple of videos on fasting because I was into fasting. And that led me to some videos on keto because these two things, especially intermittent fasting, they seem to go together. So I saw a bunch of videos about keto and I went, hey, wait a minute. This keto thing isn't what I thought it was. That's very interesting. And I started thinking back to a wedding that I went to. I went to my niece's wedding in December of 2019. And while I was there, my older brother was with me, and he said that he wanted to eat Texas barbecue every day because this was in Texas. And so I said, okay, I'm down with that, even though I was still mostly plant-based at the time and we just like chicken and fish sometimes. But I hadn't been eating a lot of red meat at all. So we ate Texas barbecue every day. And for some reason, about a month and a half after I got home from there, I stopped chewing my nails. And I had been chewing my nails my entire life. Ever since I could remember, I'd been chewing my nails. And I just stopped. I didn't think about stopping, I just did. And I think it's probably because my nails had just grown so hard and strong that they weren't chipping and splitting. And so I thought, well, maybe there's something to this meat stuff. So I started adding back some more red meat into my diet during that year. And it was probably late in 2021 that I first started watching some of the carnivore doctors, like Anthony Chafee and Dr. Barry. And Dr. Paul Mason was one of the first ones I saw. I was very impressed with his knowledge. And I was watching these guys thinking, what they're saying makes a lot of sense. And this certainly isn't what I've always thought we should do. But I didn't jump in. I wanted to just learn as much as I could. And so I just continued watching videos and kept eating junk and watching more videos and stuffing myself with more junk. And I started thinking, I'm fasting one day a week already. Maybe I should try just doing this intermittent fasting thing of just not snacking in between meals. So it was in February of 2022. I just said, I'm just going to stop snacking. So I stopped snacking and I was surprised that just not eating every couple of hours did so much for me as far as weight loss went. And I probably lost about 10 pounds just in a month and a half, just from not eating every couple of hours. And then I went from not eating after dinner to not eating until noon the next day. And I was getting some more results off of that. And weight loss was never really a goal of mine. My main goal was always to restore my health because I've been suffering for so long and I wanted my health back. And so it was in early April of 2022 when I first watched a Sally K. Norton interview with Bella, Steak and Butter Gal, who was the first carnivore I started following. And when she started talking about oxalates, and I realized that I had eaten high oxalate foods my entire life, and I just said, that's it. I'm done with vegetables, and I'm done with nuts, and I'm done with all of it. And over a period of next couple of weeks, I cut out all the carbs and eventually just got down to just meat, eggs, butter, and that was it. And that was April 22nd.
And in that time, since April 22nd, how have things changed for you? So that's over a year now, right? So a year and a half.
A
So how have things changed in that year and a half?
lot of inflammation gone, maybe 70 to 80% better as far as that goes. I did lose some weight, about 30 pounds total. And some of the minor issues that had plagued me for a while, bladder issues and digestive issues, heartburn, all kinds of things, sleep, all of those things improved so much in that time. And they still keep getting better all the time. I've kind of reached a plateau as far as my health goes. And that was when I started wondering, if there was something else that was really wrong, because I heard all of these stories from people about how, oh, well, my pain's completely gone now. And, oh, I don't have any of that anymore. And so I was a little bit dismayed by the fact that I wasn't having that much success. And then I got, you know, the thing that people got after 2020 that made them sick. And I got that. Um, and after I recovered from that, I I started having some backsliding. Things that had gotten so much better started getting worse again. I thought perhaps it was all oxalate dumping, because I had a lot of oxalate dumping in the beginning, and that was miserable. It was painful. It was annoying. It was just not fun. But I got through most of that oxalate dumping and started feeling really good before I got the C word. And then, things started going back downhill again. I started feeling worse. I started having more joint pain again. Things that had improved a lot, swelling in my fingers and all of that, all started to get worse again. And so I was like, what the heck? What's going on? And I stumbled across a video by Judy Cho about what if carnivore doesn't work, or something like that. I don't remember the exact name, but what if carnivore isn't enough? What if carnivore doesn't work? Something like that. And that's when I learned about chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And I said, huh, maybe this is me, because it's a biotoxin illness. It's a reaction to a biotoxin, and it could be any kind of biotoxin. It could be mold, or it could be tick bites of some kind, or all kinds of little biotoxins that you come in contact with. And if you have the genetic susceptibility for it, then you come in contact with it and it makes you sick, and then you just you can't really ever get completely better again. And so during that interview, I was watching that interview, and she was talking about this CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And I thought that's probably me, because I can't tell you how many times in my life I've been bitten by ticks and lived in moldy houses and been around all kinds of toxins, um, chemical sensitivities. A lot of people also get multiple chemical sensitivity that have SIRS. And now I have just learned that they believe that the long C is also SIRS. So, and I have that too. I just said, I wonder if this is it. I took the online test to see, because they have a little online test you can take the first time for free, and it checks your visual contrast sensitivity. It's called the VCS test, visual contrast sensitivity. You take that test and you answer a little questionnaire, and they group the questions in the questionnaire based on symptoms in certain different groups. And if you have like something like 3 out of 9 or something of these groups that you have symptoms in, then you're considered to have SIRS. I don't remember the exact number, but anyway, I had symptoms in every single group in that test. So I said, well, I guess I better find out more and get a real thorough testing. And that was in May. I was able to get an appointment with a doctor who follows the Shoemaker protocol, which is a very specific protocol to treat CRS that has been shown to actually take your genetic predisposition, that's a gene expression, and turn that gene expression off. So I contacted a doctor, I got an appointment. She set me up with a bunch of lab tests that were mega expensive, and I did them all, and they all came back just showing all the things that was wrong with me that I already knew was wrong with me anyway. But it showed it on the blood work and the hormones and the genetic susceptibility. And I'm the lucky one. I get to have a genetic susceptibility to every biotoxin that there is. If there's a biotoxin out there, I'm susceptible to getting sick from it. So that's my lucky story. I started treatment in June of this year, June 2023. And it hasn't really been going all that well. I mean, I wish it were going better, but I'm very sensitive to the medication that you have to take, and I don't tolerate it very well at all. And in fact, the last dose of it that I took basically put me in bed for a day. So I said, no, I'm not taking this anymore. So my doctor started me on a different kind of over-the-counter helpful toxin remover. And you have to take these binders, which are basically they pull all of the toxins out of the gut receptors, out of the toxin receptors in your gut. And then they just, they go down the toilet. And so you take these and you empty out the toxin receptors and they fill up again, and empty them out and they fill up again. And you do that over and over and over until you're free of the toxins. But the issue that I have now is that I did have my house tested to see if there was mold in it, and there is. And it was quite a bit of mold. And so at the moment, I'm going through the remediation process to remove the mold. And there was one particular area, I was very hopeful after this, one particular area that got sealed off from the rest of the house is the morning after they sealed off that part of the house, I woke up feeling better than I have in probably 10 years. And I walked around for a couple of days just thinking, man, I feel really good. And all they did was seal off that section of the house and do a little work out there. And I have no idea what's going on over there, but they did some work and I feel pretty good. And then they came back a few days later and they took the whole tent down where they'd sealed it off. And since then, things have kind of gone downhill again. And I'm back in a little bit more pain and struggling with my vision a little bit and struggling with some gut issues a little bit. But that's where I'm at right now.
And so what work is left to do? Have they finished that in the house, or is there still more to be done?
They have to come back and finish the job. I did have a mold inspector come out and check on the areas that they had worked on, and he found that there was still some active mold spores there. So they have to come back out and they have to do it again, and they have to get it, completely out this time. And then after they're done with that, if they get that all taken care of, I'll have the mold inspector back out. We'll have it all checked again. If it's all clean, then I can go ahead and start repairing the damage that was done when they rip out my walls and floors.
You are doing better now that you're on carnivore, but still because of the sensitivities, And until you clear out the mold and all that kind of thing, you've still got, of course, issues or reactivity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, my fingers are still pretty stiff, um, and they hurt, and my wrists hurt, and I don't always sleep as well as I could. I have to get up multiple times at night because I have a low ADH. Antidiuretic hormone is one of the hormones that is not being my hypothalamus is not signaling to create any of that. So my kidneys don't know when to shut off. And so I have to drink water constantly all day long, get up several times during the night. So it's, disruptive to my sleep to do that. One of the more annoying parts.
So, um, how is your day now as far as eating on carnivore? How do you work it?
Well, I've I've kind of just come around to if I get hungry, I eat something, but I try to eat very small in the early part of the day. So, I like these all beef hot dogs that you can get that are all natural and organic and all that stuff. And they're such a nice, simple thing to eat, just heat them up a little bit and munch away. And it's nice, kind of a small thing. So I don't have to eat a whole big meal. And then I've been eating either two that plus one meal or that plus two meals, just depending on my hunger signals. I've just been following what my body wants to eat. This past month in September, I sort of did a little challenge for myself where I had nothing but ground beef and eggs the whole month. I gave up every other kind of meat and just had ground beef and eggs the whole month. And so that kind of got me just to eating just that one meal, and because I just wasn't hungry. But towards the end of the month, I started getting a little bit more hungry and thinking, you know what, I need something else. I need to get back to some other kinds of food. But I just finished a nice big plate of scrambled eggs and bacon. Um, Bacon is one of those iffy kinds of foods because it is slightly processed and has a little bit of sugar in it. So yeah, it might be a little bit more inflammatory for me. But I don't know, I just missed it. So I had me some bacon. And tonight I will be having, I found my store. I went to the store earlier today and they had chuck eye steaks. So I picked up a couple of those and I will be having them for dinner tonight.
So, when people find out that you're eating this way, what kind of reactions do you get from them?
I get a lot of curiosity, really. Um, and then I also get a lot of um, the opposite of curiosity, just complete apathy and disinterest. Um, Most people seem to think, well, you're weird, so we kind of expected you to do something weird. Um, and then, my family, they're like, well, okay, you eat what you want, we'll eat what we want. But they've seen that I've gotten better and they've seen that I lost weight. And so I think they're very supportive of me, even if they don't want to join me. They're very supportive of me. I have some friends that have joined me. I've actually talked them into it, and so they've become carnivore too. And I have another friend who's not quite willing to go that far, but she's really interested, and she enjoys watching all the carnivore videos and the carnivore doctors too. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get her carnivore one of these days. But most of the time, most people just they don't really care. Whatever you want to eat is fine. I think one of the most interesting um, things that happened recently was I went to a geocaching event at a pizza place that I used to go to before I was carnivore. And I asked them if they would just simply make me a big bowl of all of their meat toppings and nothing else. And they looked at me like I'd just grown an extra head and decided, okay, well, we can do that. They charged me a lot of money for it because they said has to be at least 2 ounces each of each of those meats. I said, okay. So they charged me a whole lot of money, but I got this great big bowl of meat, spicy, very spicy meat. They had all the sausage in there and the pepperoni and all of that. But that kept me fed for a couple of days. And when I finished as much as I could eat at that event, and I wanted to put the rest in a to-go package, and I took it down to the counter. I said, "Could you put this in a to-go box for me?" And so the guy took it and he came back with the box and he said something to me like, "You're the first person I've ever heard of who would order something like this." So apparently I was the talk of the kitchen staff that entire night.
How often would you eat out like that? Where you're living, is it easy enough to get something that's, carnivore friendly?
Yes, I found that where I live, pretty much if you just ask, people are willing to make stuff for you, but I don't eat out very often. That was the second time I think I'd eaten out since I became carnivore. The first time I was celebrating something, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was lab results or something. Um, and my car was in the shop getting worked on, so I just walked down to a local restaurant and had a great big fat ribeye for lunch. And I said to them, no sides, no veggies, no nothing, just the meat. And they brought it to me just like that. I wish they would have, taken off a little off the bill, but I was getting a free burger too. So they had running a special where you could get a free burger with your steak. And so I got the steak and I took the burger home and threw the bun away and ate the meat. And I did that right after finishing that ribeye too. But those are the only times I've eaten out since I became carnivore. So some of the other places, I don't know how accommodating they would be. We have some Greek restaurants and some Chinese restaurants and things like that. But like I said, I don't really eat out very often. I did, however, just see a recent posting in a local group that they want to have like a big barbecue truck, and there is a barbecue truck that comes here a couple days a week too from down in the valley below me. And you can just buy a bunch of meat off of them. So this new barbecue truck that wants to get started going, they're going to have things like, you know, brisket and pork belly and all those yummy things. So I hope they
Nice.
get going. And I'll try and visit them if they get going.
Mm, nice.
Sauce on the side, please.
So speaking of your lab results, have you talked to your doctor about this, and how has your doctor reacted?
She's I told her at the beginning, I said, "Hey, I'm carnivore." And she goes, "Oh, okay." And then she just moved on with it. And then at our next appointment, um, she said, "Oh, well, you're carnivore, right?" And I said, "Yes." She goes, "Oh, okay." And that's basically been her reaction. The only other reaction I've gotten from her is about coffee, because I was still drinking coffee up until 2 months ago. And I just had this feeling that coffee was just adding to my inflammation, especially since I don't like it black. I always wanted some kind of cream of something in it. And I had been enjoying it. I used to drink my coffee with this a long time ago with this fake palm oil crap, vanilla flavored garbage. And I switched over to the real stuff because I said, I don't want that fake stuff. I want real sugar, real dairy. And so I was drinking it that way. And I I could still tolerate the palm oil stuff. If I was going to a gas station or something to get coffee, I could still drink that stuff. But then after going carnivore, I didn't want the sugar anymore, so I just switched over to heavy whipping cream. I was drinking my coffee with heavy whipping cream. And I remember the first time I stopped at a gas station to get coffee, and all they didn't have any half and half. All they had was the palm oil vanilla creamer. And so I put just maybe a teaspoonful of that in the coffee. And I could barely drink it. It was so awful, but I needed the coffee because I had a long drive. And but it was terrible. I hated it. So anyway, I knew that dairy wasn't good for me. I do have fibromyalgia and reactive arthritis, which is autoimmune. And so I knew that dairy wasn't good for me. And I said, I have to quit the dairy, but what do I do about coffee? And I told my doctor, I said, I have to quit the dairy, but I don't like my coffee black. And she says, oh, well, you can figure something out. Don't give up your coffee. And I thought, well, that's interesting. The doctor doesn't want me to give up coffee. And she laughs about it with me. I think she just doesn't want to give up her coffee. She doesn't want anybody else to give up their coffee. Um, but I found out that I could drink coffee black if it was iced. And summer was just coming on, it was getting hot. So I was drinking iced coffee a lot. And I finally decided, you know what? I don't want to make my own cold brew. So, and it's too expensive to just keep buying it. So I'm just going to stop coffee. Just going to stop. And I told her that and she goes, oh.
So you just gave up like that?
Yeah, I did.
Hmm.
I've done it many times in the past. I've quit coffee off and on many times. I've just never really felt like I was all that addicted to the coffee itself. All I really liked was that it was the only thing that made me want to get up out of my chair and do something. And that was what I wanted. I wanted that feeling of, I got to get up and do something. I can't sit here. I can't spend the day doing nothing. I got to do something. And it would make me get up and get very active and get a lot of work done around the house or in the yard. And if I wasn't drinking coffee, I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to just sit in front of my computer and watch YouTube all day. So um, when I quit coffee, it was because it was just 2 months ago, and I'd already gotten so many benefits from Carnivore. I figured, you know what? If I still need motivation to get up and do something after quitting coffee this time, there's something else wrong with me. And yeah, it's like I don't have that jittery nerve. I got to get up. I have to. I can't sit here. I don't have that. But certainly, if I think about something that needs to be done now, I can just get up and go do it. I don't have to sit there and go, man, I wish I didn't have to get out of the chair and go do that.
Nice. So, you mentioned that you've talked to a few friends who got into this. Um, what what do you advise them as far as getting started? Do you say go cold turkey or some other way to get into it?
I think that's a real individual thing because there are people who are they say that there are people who are moderators and people who are abstainers. Um, I don't know what goes into all of that idea, but I know that some people they can't do something a piece at a time. They have to jump in with both feet in order to get it done. I'm not one of those people. Um, I think the way our parents raised us when we were kids, my whole family, none of us is like that. Any one of us, we can give up anything we want at any one time. We know what it's like to live without things, so we don't have any problems giving things up. We don't feel like, oh well, I absolutely have to do this way. Um, and so, if I run across something that I really want, um, I'll eat it because I know that as soon as I eat it, I'm not going to want it anymore. I don't care. I'm not one of those people who goes off the rails and just starts eating a whole bunch of garbage. I went to my sister's birthday party in July and I had a tiny little piece of birthday cake with a teaspoonful of ice cream and I loved it. And that was it. I don't need any more. But I know there's people that can't do that. And people who can't do something like that are going to go off the rails if they eat just a little bit. I think those are the kind of people that you just got to cut the carbs and go into it. Deal with the keto flu. Just you'll be fine. You'll get through it. You'll come out the other side and you're going to not want that crap anymore. And then there's people like me. I slid into it. I took a couple of weeks and just started gradually cutting things down because I didn't want major oxalate dumping. I didn't want that at the beginning. I was kind of afraid of that. So I said, well, I'm just going to cut. And I had black pepper on my eggs every day for months. I mean, I didn't quit the black pepper until I finally ran out of pepper. And then I couldn't find my pepper grinder. And so I said, oh, what the heck. And so I just stopped eating pepper at that time. But yeah, in the beginning, I just kept some pepper because I was afraid of what oxalate dumping might do to me, knowing that I had had a high oxalate diet my whole life. So I I eased into it, and I think for people that have that ability to moderate and who have been suffering from chronic illnesses maybe for a long time, that might be the better way to go for them. Uh, it could be too much and too dramatic to try and just jump in all at once. You could get sicker than you really want to get. So it's a very individual thing.
So, Gail, do you have a YouTube where people can reach out to you?
I just started it. It's called Sirs Lioness. I'm also on Instagram at that name too. I put out my introduction video last night, so that's up for people who want to just get an introduction to me. I think I've covered more than that in this interview here, but it's just a little brief intro, just kind of get my feet wet and get into the YouTube space a little bit more. So they can find me at Sirs Lioness on YouTube and at Sirs Lioness on Instagram. I tend to post things there uh, a little more often because it's easier.
Mm. And long term, what is the goal for your channel? Like, what do you want to be talking about?
My goal for my channel is I actually have several. I want people with SIRS to know that they can do carnivore and they can get a lot of healing even if they're not getting treatment. Um, the treatment for SIRS is expensive and lengthy. The testing is expensive. Getting your house remediated is expensive. Almost none of this is covered by insurance. For some people, they have some things that are covered by insurance. Basic blood work and things like that will be covered by insurance, but a lot of it isn't. And then the treatments can get very expensive too. There's one particular uh, thing that you take called VIP, which some people will be on that for. It's very expensive, and sometimes you have to be on that for a year. So
Mm.
it's a very lengthy, it's a very expensive treatment, and I want people to know that carnivore will help. It will help in their healing. And the other thing that I'm looking at maybe down the road, if my channel should take off, um, become popular, maybe get some of the word out about living a normal, real life as a carnivore when you have SIRS, is I would like to have a way to help people that are struggling with some of the worst parts of it. Having a biotoxin illness makes you very sick, and a lot of the people who have SIRS cannot work because they're too sick, and they cannot live in their homes because their homes are making them sick. And these people have no place to go and no money to do anything. And I have it in my heart to try and find a way to help these people more than anything else.
Thank you very much for sharing your journey with us today. I really appreciate it, Gail.
Thank you, Dave. It was a real pleasure.